all right, friends. This is Vinney Chopra right here from San Francisco. It's raining out there. It's a little dry, cloudy here. And my brother, my friend right there, Beau in Henderson, Nevada, who is to live right here. Please let us know. And I have a very good friend. He's here today, Dylan Marma. We're going to be introducing him. It's been an exciting week. I hope it's been for you also. Please chat with us, comment and chat, and let us know where you are from, your name, and any kind of questions you might have on commercial real estate. That's what this show is about. Commercial real estate, loans, syndication, investors, brokers, you name it. Financing, the insurance, the cost segregations, anything and everything right there. So we come live to you everywhere, every Friday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific. Thank you. Hi, Easy. Nice to have you from Brazil. Good to have you, brother. All right. Thank you so much. All right. Richard is here. Hi, Richard. How are you? Hello from Long Island, New York. All right. Awesome. Good to have you. Please keep on, watching and share, like, comment. We come to you live, every week on Friday. We are also starting, and we started yesterday, by the way, Clubhouse. How many of you have eaten the club sandwiches? All right. Just like club sandwiches, it's a new upcoming thing called Clubhouse. It's just like on steroids, networking. So if you have a business to promote, if you want to learn more about real estate, please join us, Vinney and Beau, Clubhouse. And that is actually Thursday evening, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Right, Beau, buddy? How are you?
Doing well. I am on day number 47 of my 75 hard challenge. So that's 2 workouts a day. One of them has to be outside. You got to read 10 pages, drink 1 gallon of water, follow a diet, no cheat meals or alcohol. And so far, so good. Started at 245. Last week, I was 217 body weight.
Wow.
And so I think I got a little less than 30 days. Goal is to get it to be about 210. So I'm going to go from 210 or less. So I'm going to go from 245 to 210 or less. Lost a lot of body fat. Got in really good conditioning. So highly advise you to check out the 75 hard challenge and push yourself to doing something outside your comfort zone. At my second workout, right? You just got to, even though I'm tired, I push myself to go for a 45 or longer walk at night. I'm up in the morning at 4 a.m. every day.
Wow.
So, times out by 75, you're going to for sure get results, right? If you just follow this simple thing, you're going to get results, not just in physical, but in your business, because it teaches you the disciplines, right? The people that are the most successful, if you look at, they're extremely disciplined, right? They're getting up early. Usually they're following a morning ritual and they're crushing it throughout their day. Cause I always said this, I want to accomplish everything by 11 a.m. in the morning. And then anything above that is like it's like almost like you're working 2 days when everybody else is working 1. So just times that by 365 days a year, right? And you're going to outperform anybody, even if they have a better skill set than you, right? Even if they have better genes or they can run faster or whatever. If you outwork people, you're never going to lose.
So true. And I totally agree with you, man. The miracle morning when I get up 4:45 or 5 o'clock sometime, it's the best time I can spend with me. It's the best time I can do in listening to the good, positive things and watching and doing exercise, doing miracle morning, paying gratitude. And, and I've seen you transform, buddy. I'm so proud of you. You have turned, you look 5-10 years younger already, and I'm 68. I'll be 69 this year in August. And I want to be like you, man. I'm telling you, look at the glow. So this will happen. It really is going to happen. Look at that. A lot of people are really, really enjoying that. Thank you, Daniel, buddy. Thank you over here. Get it, Beau. And I've lost 4 pounds right there. Daniel is saying kudos for you, buddy. That's great. Awesome. So let's go ahead and introduce our very good friend and guest speaker and see. Dylan is a great friend of mine and Beau's. And like to introduce Dylan. Dylan Marma is a principal of the Requity Group, a real estate investment company focused around the acquisition and operation of mobile home parks. So if you're ready to learn some really great things about this great class asset, commercial asset, mobile home parks, which are, very interesting, multifamily real estate. He has been a principal for on over $60 million. And I know, Dylan is going to tell you the story. He just started, guys. I mean, I'm so proud of him in real estate transactions over the last 4 years. If you think that you can get to where, anybody can get to 10 million, 20, 30, 60, 4 years, 60 million from zero. I'll let him tell you the story. He has been featured on dozens of podcasts. Just say, search for Dylan Marma, and has spent over 100, I think more than that, hundreds of hours consulting commercial real estate investors. And he has CCIM certificate also right there, buddy, right? Dylan, welcome to the show, buddy. Good to have you.
Thanks so much, guys. It's always great to see you guys. I know I've connected with both of you guys, very early on in my journey, and it's always awesome to kind of watch everyone's progression along the way.
Oh, thank you. Can I tell us a little bit more? I mean, we got great audiences, and of course, we are going live right now in 7 channels at this time, in LinkedIn, in YouTube Live, Facebook groups, Facebook pages, all over, So tell us a little bit more about you and how you got into real estate.
Yeah, so looking back, I started off at 20 years old. I had the bug to get into real estate and some form of entrepreneurship, and I moved out to beautiful San Diego from upstate New York to get close to the ocean and to create what I called the lifestyle by design sort of thing, right? And got my foot in the door by working at a real estate investment and education company out of San Diego. And I began to surround myself with a lot of investors that purchase, buy and hold single family, fix and flip single family, multifamily real estate, and retail and other forms of commercial. And after getting exposed to a lot of the different avenues and the different paths that you can take within real estate investing, I saw that multifamily and multifamily syndication was a path that really aligned with a lot of my goals and aligned with my personality type. And I just thought it was something that I could do that was going to allow me to create a lot of wealth, but also a lifestyle that would really be exciting and an overall exciting path to follow and pursue. And at that point, once I had made the decision to get into multifamily, I remember linking up with Vinney initially off of a Facebook message, and he was one of the biggest early mentor to me. Really, we jumped on a Zoom call and at that point started to dive in. I remember him telling me that he can teach me everything he knows in about 6 hours, which I found very hard to believe. But at the same time, I remember I think he was able to make it pretty simple and lay out a lot of what he knew in relatively short period of time over a period of a few months of time. So that relationship was great. And I think Vinney really played a large role in sort of inspiring me and giving me the confidence to take a leap. And I did take a leap, eventually moving to the Southeast at that point with no deals under my belt besides a single family and a duplex that I had done earlier on. And shortly after that, we closed on a 21 unit deal with a few partners. Yes. Actually, Vinney and a couple other friends of mine from upstate New York. Mm-hmm. And then from there, got into I linked up and connected with some partners that had existing experience. So we had complementary sort of skill sets because they had purchased multifamily, and at that time they had not syndicated. And I was spending a lot of time around and studying sort of the syndication model. So that was the value that I brought to the partnership. And at that point, we started to syndicate deals. We syndicated about 500 doors throughout Tennessee and Kentucky, mainly in Kentucky. And then along the way, I've also done a number of joint venture deals, in Tennessee, West Virginia, and we had, of course, had that one deal in New York. So So yeah, that was most of my journey up until about a year back. Had worked on about 750 doors of multifamily, and I felt like I got a really wide sort of exposure towards all different aspects of the business when it comes to acquisitions, asset management. We also managed in-house, so I was around the property management very often. And at the beginning of last year, ended up basically going different directions than my former partners, as we just had different long-term goals. So at that point, we decided to go different ways. I started a new brand under TRG, or the Requity Group, and at first we were I was looking at pursuing apartments, but I really caught the bug around that same time for mobile home parks, and I saw that there's a ton of potential in the space. I saw that the cash flows, more than anything, I saw that the risk-adjusted return I thought was really attractive. The more I began to learn about what the risks are in the space, I saw that you have really long average lease length, or average stay of the residents more than anything. You have folks that own tenant-owned homes, they'll stay there for 30 plus years at a time. So I saw that you have very high retention rates. Overall collections as an industry are pretty good, and it's outperformed a lot of other sectors in the space for decades historically, and I think it still has some runway. And
I'm so glad you're saying that, Dylan. And that's an asset class many people, to be truthful, in my mind, my scotoma, right? The blind spot was that mobile home parks, who lives there, right? But it's a whole different ball game, right? So I hope we could kind of take people into that little different mentality, that now there are seniors, there are good, educated people. They love the freedom and they don't like to pay too much rents, right? Yeah, please take us there. Yeah.
Yep, big time. So yeah, it's a whole different subset. I still view it as very similar to multifamily because the way you operate it is extremely similar. But I definitely would agree that it's a different demographic and you have sort of a different appetite, right? What I find is that you can't just simply replace, say, a C-class apartment with a mobile home park, because they're both kind of, you would think that maybe those are the alternatives. But a lot of the times, buying a mobile home is a decision that someone makes usually as a family because they want to have more space. That's why in apartments, a lot of the times your 2 bedrooms are most popular, right? 3 bedrooms are sometimes a little bit more difficult because by the time you need a 3 bedroom, people are looking at housing options. We find within the mobile home park space, the 3 bedrooms are really what sell. The 2 bedrooms are a little bit more difficult because you have more families and because people want space, they want multiple bedrooms, they want to be able to grow and live there for a long period of time. They usually want to have a front and a backyard, right? So very often it's families that are looking for a place to live. They plan to stay there for a longer period of time. You have different forms of ownership. You have what we call park-owned homes, where we own the homes and we rent it out to the families. And then we also have tenant-owned homes or resident-owned homes where the families own it. If they own it themselves, they're usually going to stay there for a very, very long period of time, decades to come. If we own it, it's usually more similar to a rental, where you have more similar turnover numbers to that you'll find within apartments. So our goal, if we have park-owned homes, is to convert them through some form of either cash sale or a home ownership program, sort of a rent-to-own type of a model, where they can eventually acquire the homes, and then we have a long-term resident that has more skin in the game to be able to stay there longer term. So back to your point on the demographics, we find families that have a long-term outlook, and then at the same time, on the senior side of things, because I know, Vinney, you're doing a lot of senior stuff. I think you guys both are. There's a huge demographic. I mean, my grandparents actually moved to one several years ago, right after living in a big single family house for a long time, right? Because it's at some point the seniors don't want the stairs, but they might still want the independence that comes from having their own place to live, but they don't need all the space to move around. So it makes for a really good option and a very simple way of living at a later stage in life. And I think that there's a lot of communities that will really support that, and they'll maintain all the grounds. They'll upkeep some of the house. Sometimes you have a lot of amenities that will appeal to them. So it does make for a great sort of affordable option for seniors.
Surely.
And it probably makes more sense from just like a overall growth standpoint, to some degree. If you don't own any of the homes and you just own the pads, I mean, how much really, you're not dealing with toilets and tenants, right? You're really just dealing with the pad itself and the pad rent, which probably makes your life a lot easier if you don't really want to run your own management company or have a third-party management company. Would you say that's another?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So we run our own management company. We're closing on our third acquisition, which will put us at around 350 units over the last few months. And and we manage all of our properties or all of our communities. And a lot of these early acquisitions, they have a large component of park-owned homes. But the reason that we're okay with that is because of the headaches that come along with them and sort of the stigma, we can usually get a better return on these, right? The going in cash flows is really attractive. We have one deal that we're doing roughly 20% on after, within 6 months or so of takeover. They're not, of course, all going to be that strong, but you can hit double-digit cash flows on a lot of these park-owned home deals once you're in the deals, which is hard to find in today's environment.
Oh, totally. We are looking at 5.5%, 6%. It tops, 7%.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's just a different model, but you can find some really strong cash flows going in, but you have to be doing the work, right? And that's where I think my experience in the apartment world really benefits me, because I'm comfortable with the turnover that we deal with nonstop. Whereas a lot of people that have not dealt with the turnover, that are only buying tenant-owned home communities, if you come into this, it's a whole different world. If you don't have sort of the KPIs and you're not paying attention to your turn numbers and your management process, it becomes difficult to manage all of the constant turnover that you're going to deal with. So we're buying these, realizing that we're ready to take the headache on in lieu of trying to attempt to get some outsized returns early on. But I think our long-term strategy is definitely to keep less than half of the portfolio park-owned homes, probably down to like 1/3 long-term. So that way we can always have a nice balance, because you're exactly right. With the park-owned home communities, we're having a daily call every single morning with the managers. If it was all tenant-owned, the only real metric we're going to be paying attention to is collections mainly, because you have long-term residents, you have high occupancy, hopefully, right? And at that point, it's really just tracking the collections, making sure we have our annual rental increases, that sort of thing. So that would require maybe a once a week call, right? So definitely totally different ball games. I think you really have to be ready to handle that.
And I think there's going to be a huge push for modernization of these homes, right? Like for years, these have had stigmas. Mobile homes have had stigmas, right? But like if you see what's happening in the ADU world, the prefab ADU world, right? Like we've been talking about that recently because I'm funding some deals. But I see the vision of mobile home parks with a big resurgence because of that fact that they're going to basically have, like, there's a company called Boxable, and you can get a truck, they put it out, it basically unfolds, and you got a cool, 1,000 square foot house, right? So I think they're going to become more easily adaptable to move. So you're going to be able to move these things easier without damaging them, and I think there's going to be some parks eventually that become more of like the luxury park, right? Like it's not going to be, in the past people think, mobile home park, and the stigma is trailer trashed, right? And that's going to go away completely. I think the world is going to, the world's changing, obviously, especially with COVID, and people are like, you know what, I can go, rent a pad here, and I can bring my house there, and I can live there, right, for 5 years or 10 years, or I can live there forever. And you're right. Right now, if somebody moves one of their mobile homes onto a pad, it's they're not moving it again, right? There's a $7,000 to $15,000 charge to move it, set it up. It's not cheap. And so once they're a good tenant, once they move their property, they're staying.
Yeah, they're sticky, as we'd say, right? But yeah, I completely agree. I think it's similar to anything else, right? You can buy apartments that are in really sketchy areas that have all kinds of headaches and, drug dealers and whatever, living within it. And I think you can also find mobile home communities that can fit the stigma that people can have. But on the other side, especially here in Florida, if you drive around some of the communities here, you have some, immaculate looking communities that are extremely well kept, and these homes that are very, very well maintained with all kinds of landscaping outside of the respective homes, and so on, right? So it just depends on the yeah, I think that the class of community that you're looking for, where we see a lot of the value is mainly in the nicer quality product. It's mainly in product that has the sort of aesthetics or the aesthetic potential to be something that would appeal to one of the institutions down the road, because institutional buyers are now coming in and buying stuff at 5 caps or in some cases below, and they're buying large portfolios. So if you can acquire the stuff that has the bones and the potential to eventually be something that makes for a nice kind of turnkey acquisition for the institutions, and then we can do the heavy lifting of converting either the park-owned homes or doing some infill if there's vacant lots, or whatever the sort of the value add story is. That's where we think the potential is today.
I'm so glad you're saying that, Dylan. That's something I've been in the back of my mind as a developer. Now I've been into assisted living developments and also doing Class A multifamily ground ups, in Michigan, townhouses, things like that. So what is the cities, let's just say they're thinking, right?
Mm-hmm.
The cities, would a lot of developers are coming to take over these parks and they want to build high rises, or how?
Yeah, it depends on where you live. We call that a covered land play, right? When you have sort of the insurance that you're buying a deal, and you also have 2 exit options, that someone either buys it as a mobile home community, or if someone buys it with the intention to redevelop it into something else, right? And there's a lot of owners that think their land is more valuable than it is, and they think that they're going to sell it at development price, but they're likely not going to be able to get that. But there definitely are some situations where you can see that the developers will purchase these. That's why one of the things that I love about the space is that we have usually a depleting supply year over year, right? It's usually a less than 1% decrease each year in total supply, because when it comes to development, I think there's enough interest in the space right now where developers would be very interested in doing developments. But the challenge that you run into is that you have a lot of not in my backyard restrictions, and a lot of the counties and cities will push back on the development of mobile home communities. So it's the places that you want to develop, you're going to have a really hard time to develop, most likely. And the places that you're able to develop in, the economics won't make sense because the lot rent's not high enough to justify the development costs right now.
Makes sense. Wow. So where do you see the future of this business, bud?
Well, I think it's no surprise right now, and the word is certainly out, right? I think when it comes to the value that are in mobile home communities, I think you see a lot of institutional money starting to flow into it. It's very similar to apartments, right? And a lot of other forms of multifamily right now, because we've seen a lot of these other sectors of real estate take a hit when it comes to office space and it comes to retail, right? So people are searching for a secure place, and this is one of the few options we're left with for secure investment. So I think I think that being said, the low-hanging fruit right now is likely gone, right? You're not going to find just a turnkey deal in a great market that doesn't need that much work at just an amazing price, right? I think that where you're going to find the value right now is the value add deals. And I think that we saw that happen. I'm sure, Vinney, you remember better than I do, but when apartments went from being something that you could buy at like an 8 cap in place and then have value add, to where the value add started to get sort of baked into the price a bit more, right? I think we're sort of hitting that part of the cycle, we'll say, where now the operators that are seeing the value add and able to sort of compete on that are the ones that are going to be winning the deals and ultimately able to find the quality returns. I think if we're stuck on the prices of yesterday, where we used to be able to find, I think that a lot of mobile home operators were able to find, like, going in 20% cash on cash and all tenant owned home deals pretty reasonably. I think a lot of those days are gone for the most part. You're going to have to take on a little bit more hair, but I think that we still have a few years left of being able to find these quality value add deals. And then I think these institutions are likely going to buy up a large amount of the product and hold it long term.
Awesome. Dylan, I want to take everybody to a different place. I know you're a very determined person. You're so young. You've accomplished so much. Tell us about, what motivates you, and how do you start your day, and what kind of, Where are you going in the next 5 years?
Mm-hmm. So I start my day. Typically, I do a meditation in the morning. Like you guys are big into the morning routines. The first thing I do is meditation. I've actually started to do transcendental meditation earlier this year. So I've been doing that twice a day for 20 minutes a day. And I feel like that's been really sort of a valuable personal development thing that I've picked up. I always try to get some kind of early morning reading in, or something that inspires me early in the morning, usually in the form of reading. And then exercise, I try to do at least, four times a week or so. I'm not quite on Beau's level at this moment, but I think there's a lot of merit to, getting frequent exercise, and it's a great way to clear your head and get the endorphins flowing to get your day started. So big into that. But as far as what motivates me, I think I'm just big into, I used to be big into goals, and I think that was mainly my focus was just simply the goals that I would set for myself. And I still do have goals that I'm constantly thinking about the future. But I think right now I'm mainly excited about just a lot of, like, I call it goal oriented versus growth oriented. And I'm putting a lot of thought into just like creating the right systems and strategies and managing what gets thrown at me on a day-to-day basis more than anything, and putting the right processes in place. Like my big focus right now is to build the infrastructure that we need to be able to scale the company and go far, right? To be able to have the KPIs in place, to be able to have the right team in place, to be able to, really build the foundation. It's kind of, Vinney, one of the quotes that you say that I think really stuck with me was the whole slow down to speed up mentality, right? So that's really what I focus on a lot is how can we slow down and really get, granular on the processes today so that we can eventually bring people on and grow something.
And you know what's interesting too, and this is kind of like what you'll find is, I remember when I first met Dylan, this was years ago now, but you could tell he was in his mid-20s at the time, I believe. But what struck me about,
let's say early 20s.
Yeah.
What struck me about Dylan was, it's not like Dylan had special powers.
Yeah.
But what he did really well, and I think people need to note this if you want to achieve more, is he went out and he sought, he found people that he can get in for, he could provide value and also, get value out of, right? And he was like, he's like a lifetime student. Like he didn't just wake up and become like this really like super 20-year-old that could like, sell anything and like underwrite deals. Like he went in and like studied this more than the average person does. And he's still to this day. Yeah. And if you look at guys like Vinney, right? People that are achieving a lot, it's not, there's no secret, right? What they're doing, what others won't do. And I think people need to realize that it's not that Dylan is like this, he is a smart guy, but it's because he's invested his time and he constantly learns. Like I remember seeing when he got his CCIM designation. Yeah. Like he doesn't need to do that. He's really successful, but he did it because he's like, okay, I want to learn more and look at stuff from a different perspective. Mm-hmm. And I think people like that, like if you're sitting out there watching right now, that's like valuable, right? Like I had a client who brought me this ADU deal to finance. And then I was like, well, yeah, I can finance it. I'll figure it out. Right. And then I went, wow, this ADU business, especially in California and certain markets, it's too expensive and you can't buy stuff that makes sense. But what if you he's buying a multifamily, he's putting 4 ADU units on it, right? Like in those type of things, and then go deep with it, right? Like, hey, here's a model that will actually work. And then like, I can scale this. And like, what I like about Dylan is like, you went in and you figure out multifamily, and I would say you had really good success early on with multifamily. Mm-hmm. And then he said, oh, I like, mobile home parks, right? Mobile home parks, I think this is a great asset class. And then all of a sudden he just, boom, he has 350 units under management in like a year, right? And probably he's on to 2,000 or 3,000 in the next 2 or 3 years, right? So that's like amazing to watch people do. And so when we interview guests like this, guys, there's takeaways that are happening, right? Like, what did he do? What can you mirror what he's doing for your own business, right? And that's what I take away. And that's why I love doing this show with Vinney every Friday. So we get great guests, and then you go, okay, what are they doing right? Where do they see the market going? What are they doing that I'm not doing that I can implement? Yeah, and that's perfect. So thank you for giving us your morning.
Yeah, no, of course, and I definitely would echo that. I think being a sort of a lifetime student is key, and I see that with Beau and Vinney, of course, and I think early on for me when I was 20. I remember going to work for the company Fortune Builders that was ran by Dan Merrill, who was at that time, I think, his early 40s, ultra successful. Having running probably 10 different businesses at the same time. It was incredible how much he was able to sort of manage, especially at a young age. And I remember also, seeing and witnessing him like being in coffee shops, like reading and constantly hiring coaches and mentors and things along those lines, right? So I think I saw that early on from him, and then I've continued to see that with a lot of very successful people over the years. And it's always inspired me to always remain a student and remain open-minded towards what we do, right? I think especially in real estate, there's a lot of ego that can get into the picture, and I think that can really blind people, and it can also be sort of the kiss of death at a point when they think they know everything, right?
So true. Wow, you gave so many great nuggets, Dylan. It's such a pleasure, buddy. How can people reach you? Yeah.
You can reach me. I'm most active on LinkedIn these days on social media. So certainly, plug in on LinkedIn. Would love to connect with anyone there. And then you can also visit our website, therequitygroup.com. That is the REQUITY group.com.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Dylan, for joining today. We really value your time. And thank you, Beau. What a great show. And remember, we take this today's show, and it's also put into podcast. So if anybody missed it, you can also see in Vinney channel and also Beau's channel. We are hitting 60,000 downloads, which is very, very exciting on my other podcast that I do. And also we started the Clubhouse, right? Beau, you want to tell about that?
Oh yeah, Clubhouse. Yesterday was our first Clubhouse event. I mean, I've been playing around as a listener, but it was our first time moderating a room, and it went really well. We had a great turnout, and it's only going to grow from here. And in Clubhouse, I mean, just to kind of give you a perspective, if you're not on Clubhouse, the first day I was on Clubhouse, I got to talk to Grant Cardone, which is pretty cool, right? He's a pretty, so you can interact with people like Vinney and Grant Cardone and all these people, and it might not even be real estate related. Sometimes I jump in groups about YouTube because I'm trying to grow my YouTube channel, and I get to talk to people they're getting 5 million views a month on their YouTube channels, and they're giving me feedback. Hey, you should do this, and this. I mean, where else can you just go onto this audio thing and have a conversation with powerhouses throughout the nation, throughout the world?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not using Clubhouse, you're foolish. And I mean, you don't have to spend your whole day on it, but go on there, schedule in like maybe 2 or 3 hours a week to network. I mean, yesterday, not to toot my own horn, I just had a call this morning, and it's a $20 million deal, right, for financing.
I love it.
There's huge opportunity, guys, and we need to harvest it. There you go.
Sorry, we didn't upload it yet, but yeah, Clubhouse actually every Thursday, 3 p.m. Pacific. Please join us. And then Friday, it's 9:30 Pacific. Again, we meet you every week. So please subscribe, like, comment, put the notifications on. Thank you, Dylan. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys. I was appreciate having me on the show.
See you next week, guys. Bye-bye.